Hi everyone, it's Anisha, and I'm back with K Magazine, not for Behind the Niche this time, but for another very special guest, from retro styles of Palm Royale to crafting commanding looks for the new Thunderbolts movie with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I have a very talented hairstylist today who has Emmy and makeup and hairstyling nominations under her belt and decades of experience across film, television, and character styling. Hi Cynthia, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you today because usually, when we do interviews for like films, we always get to talk with, the actors and the directors, but we never really get to talk to the crew. And so I really like learning about the different parts of film and what goes into a great cast and crew. So super excited to have you today. Just wanted to start off by saying, what drew you into hairstyling and when did you realize that this could be a career?
This is a really silly story, but a friend of mine went to beauty school and I was like, "Oh, I could do that. I could try that." And I went to beauty school too. And then, many years later, I graduated out of school and was working and was cleaning out my garage and I found my childhood Barbies. And not one of my Barbies had hair on it anymore. I'm like, okay, so maybe this was destined. This was like I knew as a child that I was going to do this, but um, I love it. I really segued from salon work into studio work, and I just love the creativity that you get with it. It's
Yeah,
such a fun medium.
yeah, that's amazing. You work in such like a fast-paced environment and industry. What keeps you inspired after all of these years?
You know what? Looking at other people's work and keeping my eye out and seeing what's going on out there and just being inspired by things out in beauty and nature and simple things like, oh, like that's really interesting. Like I wonder how you could incorporate that shape into something.
Yeah, that's great. I've talked with a lot of artists on some of the pieces and interviews that I've done, and that's also a very common thing that they said. So I think there's some common traits of what keeps people inspired, but I love that. I wanted to ask you if you could go back and talk to yourself when you're working on some of your earlier projects, what would you say?
Relax and enjoy the moments more, honestly. Like even for anybody, whether they're in this business or not, like just really be present to what is happening around you because those things shape you for further knowledge, experience, life, and we take those things for granted, I think.
I love that. Your work spans from everything from period pieces like Gaslit to Marvel projects like WandaVision, Agatha All Along, recently Thunderbolts. How do you approach building a character's look through hair?
It's very collaborative. It has to do with me, the makeup artist, the actual, actor, actress, what their vision is, and then hearing from directors or producers, like if they have a particular thing that style thing niche that they want me to look at, and then we go from there, trying to make everyone happy. And most importantly, the actor or actress, like you know, I want them to be happy because if they're not comfortable in the look, they can't deliver the character.
Of course, it's amazing. Can you share like a time where you were especially proud of a look and just like walk us through that creative process?
God, there's so many, but I really have to say, creating Catherine Hahn's look in WandaVision and Agatha, um, and even Julia in Thunderbolts, when you put a wig on them, you see them click into that character, and that's so gratifying because now, okay, I did what I needed to do. And then coupled with the makeup and the costume, and it's it really is very gratifying when that
I love
happens.
I love that. When you're on a big production like a Marvel film, what's an average day look for you? I know it varies maybe because of being on like different locations, but could you like walk us through that?
On a Marvel project? Um, well, it's very secretive. There's
I'm
lots of
sure.
secrets. Um, just it depends on what we're shooting that day, where we're at, location. Um, there's so many variables, but really just trying to focus on what today's work is. Okay, what is today's work? Now, how is today's work going to affect tomorrow's work? Because there's lots of times we're shooting out of order. So if today is the first look for something, how is this look later? Do I have, how long are they in this? What's coming next? And you really have to break it down and be clear on where you're going
Yeah,
for the
of
day.
course. Of course. I mean, you've worked, like I said, you've worked with recently Julia, and you've also worked with Aubrey Plaza on, Agatha all along.
Mhm.
How do you build trust with actors when you're crafting their look?
By listening, by being there and listening to them and hearing um, what their insecurities are, what, like, okay, I don't like my hair to part on this side because of this, or I want it, just I feel today I'm not feeling the best, or I feel great today and I'd like to try this. Just really listening to them is so important.
Yeah, that's great. Can you tell us about maybe one behind the scenes moment that most people would be surprised to know about hairstyling on set?
One that's a surprise. It's a lot of waiting around. It's not glamorous. There's plenty of times you're in elements that are not great, and you have to make it look like it's a sunny day.
Yeah, of course.
Movie
I know,
magic, television
right.
magic.
Right. I know for these Marvel projects, I've sat and like watched lots of interviews because I'm a big Marvel fan. I've been watching for a long time now. And you hear from actors like sometimes for characters who have to put a lot more makeup on, they're
Yeah.
sitting in the chair for a long, long time. So I love that you talk about that and bring that up. You've been the head of some major projects, like of your hairstyling department. How do you build and lead a team under tight production schedules?
You find people that really sort of you love the way they work. Um, there's many characteristics about that person that you love, not just their work, because you're with them a lot. And so you really have to build trust and um, a friendship, because there's going to be times where you're not going to, they need to be an extension of you.
Yeah, of course. You've collaborated with, wig makers like Wigs by Natasha and Wig Maker Associates. What goes into crafting wigs for, film TV that viewers might not realize?
Gosh, I marvel at hand-tied wig making. It's true beauty and art. I mean, it's a strand at a time or two strands at a time. It's fantastic. I marvel at it. Um, but then again, it just goes back to creating the character. So then relaying those notes to the wig maker and wig builder and trying to make sure that everything is melding together nicely.
Of course, especially I know with like a Marvel film, there's so many action sequences, hair gets messed up. How is it supposed to look in the next shot? Because, some stuff gets cut, some stuff stays in. So totally understand that. I can't even imagine like how much time that takes to go through all of that. But yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to talk about your nominations. You've been nominated for Emmys and Makeup and Hairstyling Awards.
Thank you.
What do those recognitions mean to you as an artist?
For me personally, I feel just the acknowledgement of the nomination is way more than the winning because you're coming from this giant pool of work that there's so many amazing artists out there, and to be recognized for that in this giant pool, taken down to this little pool, it's like, where it's honestly, it truly is it feels just gratifying and awestruck sometimes, like I can't believe that you like that. You like that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that I love that. I want to ask you about WandaVision because during the COVID time when Marvel was putting out a lot of these TV shows, WandaVision became a fan favorite. Some TV shows didn't do quite as well, but WandaVision really stood out to the Marvel audience. Did you know right away that that was going to be something special?
We knew it was special when we were filming it. We were because there wasn't anything like this. And it really it changed I think streaming television because it was so different and creative. We all kind of knew that it was special. And still to this day, I'm in the grocery store and I hear two young kids, high school age, and they're talking about WandaVision still. And it's just fantastic. I love it. It tickles me.
I love that. I gotta ask you, you've worked both on film and television. Do you have a preference over one?
No, I don't. For me, film tends to be a little slower. Television, you shoot it a little faster. So you're going through more pages in a shorter period of time. Um, so that's kind of exciting where it's a little faster pace. And then there are times where you like to step back and just be like, okay, I'm into a slow, I want a slow roll.
I love that. What's one misconception that you think people have about like being a hairstylist in Hollywood?
That it's so glamorous. They don't, yeah, there's, like I said earlier, parts of Thunderbolts, we were on the side of a mesa in a windstorm shooting those sequences. And, it was 100 and something degrees and the wind was blowing, sand was blowing everywhere. It's just the elements are, I think, the one thing that trips people. They don't realize that.
Of course. And I know sometimes, like, especially when you work on a film set, sometimes you're up like really late at night and really early in the morning. So
Yeah.
it can definitely be draining from what I've heard
Yeah.
and seen. I want to dive a little bit more into Thunderbolts because the movie just came out. It was really great. I watched it. I loved it. So glad to see some of these great characters return. Thunderbolts was such a big Marvel project, and so many people were
Mhm.
and ready and anticipated for it. How do you get involved? What was your initial reaction when you found out that you were going to be styling Julia?
Oh my God, just so excited. She's so lovely and wonderful, and she's a dream to work with. And it was really kind of exciting to create this, villain, villain that kind of makes you think that she's not a villain. But it's kind of fun to create those characters. And she was a dream to work with. So it was very exciting.
That's
And
amazing.
it's so collaborative, like the whole team. You know, I just took care of her, but there were many other hairdressers there and makeup artists, and it was fun to see what they were doing too, and how what they were doing was going to play well in the movie.
Of course, I love that. I know when I first saw her on screen in Black Widow, and we
Mhm.
just saw like her iconic look. I think her hair had that like purpleness
Right.
in it at the time. She's such a badass character, even though she's technically a villain. But I
Yeah.
love her, and her look I feel like is very iconic. So props to you and the entire team that worked on that.
Thank you.
Um,
We had a big glow up this year with her. We were like, we're not going to do purple anymore. We're going a different direction, and
I love that. Like I said, she has a very distinct and powerful look. So how did you approach evolving her hair in this film?
It was collaborative. She told me she wanted a length, and then we kind of talked about the purple, and she kind of felt like she wanted to maybe evolve out of that and be more sophisticated and glamorous. And so we decided, no, no purple, and we're gonna keep her very um, classic looking. Her wardrobe was very classic. Her makeup was fantastic by the wonderful Vasilios Tanis, and the hair, it just all complemented each other, keeping her simple and classic and elegant.
I love it. Well, you guys definitely hit the nail on that one.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, of course. What are some of the technical or creative challenges that come with styling hair for like an action-heavy superhero film?
The stunts, and is this hairstyle going to be okay for stunts? What is, what are we up against? Um, uh, it's so technical that you don't realize because you forget that, sometimes you create a style and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot that they're going to do stunts with this look. So I hope I hope I can the stunt person can adapt because a lot of times it's them trying to hide their face, and when there's hair, it kind of helps that.
Of course. You kind of mentioned this earlier of Marvel being top secret. We always see actors trying to not spoil anything, and I know it's especially hard for the rest of the crew as well. When you're working on these top secret films, how do you work under those conditions? And especially when you're collaborating with like outside wig makers and stylists.
We work under a secret name. So it's never the correct name. It's always the show has a secret name. So that kind of helps. And the wig makers are NDA clad. They sign an NDA just like the rest of us do.
Amazing. What's one thing that people might not notice from Julia's look in this film, but you as a stylist are especially proud of?
Hmm. I guess just the reality of making that wig look real, like that it was her own hair. And I feel like that really it had movement and life. It didn't look like a wig was just sitting on her head.
I love that. I know I saw I think it was your Instagram reel of you
Mhm.
speeding up the process of putting the wig on, and it's like, I wonder, like, if I was in that moment realistically, like, how long does that take?
It usually is in stages. I usually have the actor or actress in my chair first, and I do what's called a head wrap. Compact their hair down as tight as I can. Then I send them to makeup, and then they come back over to me, and then I finish it up by laying the wig, pinning it, gluing it. So total time with me is about 45 minutes. It's not a slow process.
Yeah, of course.
And, and when you have to be in at 5 in the morning, it can be a little grueling for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't relate to that, but I could understand waking up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, how has working with Marvel compared to some of the other projects that you've done in terms of like scale, pressure, and process?
Oh, I guess it would just be the large scale that Marvel itself is so giant. It's, not to be corny, but otherworldly in a way. There's so much intricacy. I have a loss for words, but little um, special things that you don't understand, that I still don't understand. How this character isn't with this one, and then all the players involved, meaning the characters, how they all are the same in one way or another.
Of course. On this job, obviously you're traveling, working with different actors. What was your favorite part? Was it the traveling, working with these special group of actors for like Thunderbolts or other sets, or is it just something else entirely for you?
I really enjoy working with, well, different people because I'm a people person. I like to get to know them and obviously work with them again, but it's also fun to work with them in other places because it's kind of magical in a way. You're someplace new and or someplace that you've been before that you get to reacquaint with. It's kind of nice when those two things collide, when you can work with somebody in a new place, I
I
guess.
love that. Yeah. I mean, for me, honestly, like it's crazy that of the different locations that you guys travel to, especially I think you mentioned this, but Utah, traveling to Utah for like those hot scenes and whatever, like I'd enjoy that, but there's definitely some places I hesitate from going to first,
I
but
know.
at least when you're traveling, you're going with the group of people and the whole crew, you know.
Yes.
Um, I have to ask you, if you weren't a hairstylist, what other creative path do you think you would have taken?
Mm, gosh, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really feel like I have any other creative outlet. I don't know. Hmm. Sometimes I think about, like medicine, like I would have gone into medicine some way or another.
Oh, well,
But here I am.
yeah. You got to style a lot of great people and your work's been great. So I gotta
And
ask you
I'm
another
still
thing.
growing doing it. There's still more people I would love to work with.
Who would they be?
I don't know. Like I really, it's
You
so
could
funny. After doing so many big, heavy wig shows, I'm like, I just want a little cop show or a little rom-com.
this is your
Simple,
time to put it out into the world.
exactly. Simple little hair, maybe ponytails.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
great.
You know, I I am inspired by there's so many amazing actors and actresses out there. I couldn't even tell you.
Well, you still have a lot of time to work
I
with
know.
people, so
Exactly.
hopefully you get to work with whoever you think you want to work with in the future.
Yes.
I have to ask you, in your career, has there been a moment that's made you stop and think, wow, I can't believe I get to do this?
Yes. I just which I can't talk about, but I just worked this last week and it was literally like, I can't believe I'm doing this with this actor. Like this is kind of crazy. Pinch me. And working with Julia too. She's just so wonderful. And I grew up watching her and her deliveries, her comedy, and yet also her dramatic acting just is astounding. And then Catherine, and then,
Of course. And you've also worked with, I think, Elizabeth Olsen more than once. Am I correct or?
I worked on projects with her. Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of great actors you've worked with, and especially like you mentioned with Agatha all along, like she had really amazing hair in that show. I'm just,
Thank you.
yeah, it was amazing. I want to ask you one last question. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in hairstyling and maybe would like to take it into this film and TV world?
Hmm. The industry is changing. Um, and go into it without a preconceived notion. Go into it and also like learn and have a passion for it because it is very different than it was. It's, content is changing and you got to be flexible.
Amazing. That's a great piece of advice. Well, it's been amazing speaking with you, Cynthia. I cannot wait to see the future projects that you work on.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully more Marvel films. Again, I loved your work in Bullet Train, and if for the people who don't know out there, if you grew up watching a lot of Disney shows, she probably has worked on them before. My favorite, Lab Rats. So I cannot wait to see what else you do. It's been amazing speaking with you.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me today.